Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass. Over the past few years of Talkingbass, I've been asked time and time again about this bass. Now, as many of you are aware, I use a bunch of different basses. A few Fender Precisions, a few Fender Jazz models, an Ibanez, and some others depending on the video that I'm creating. But this bass in particular, that I use as my main go-to bass these days, tends to get a lot of attention. So today I'm going to give you a quick tour of the stunning Enfield Lionheart. So the Enfield bass guitar line is made by Sims Guitar Works, the company owned by Martin Sims and based in Kent here in the UK. Martin is probably most famous for his development of the retrofit LED light system that you'll have seen on guitars and basses of guys like Mark King, Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, Brian May, John Paul Jones, to name but a few. Ironically, I don't have the fretboard LEDs on this particular bass, but as you can see, I've still got at least a couple of shiny bits that I'll be covering in a minute. Enfield basses come in a variety of different models, all with interesting and colourful names. This bass is an Enfield Lionheart. As with all boutique basses like this, it comes with a bunch of different custom options, from the wood to the finish to the hardware. This bass features all Hipshot hardware, so that's the tuning pegs and the bridge. The pickups are Martin Sims' amazing super quads, and the preamp is a 3-band Glockenklang. So I've got a stacked treble and bass pot, mid, pickup blend and volume, which is push and pull to shift between active and passive mode. The body is East Asian mahogany and is incredibly light, and anyone that's followed my channel for any amount of time will know all about my back issues and how I love light gear. From that angle, this bass is a winner right from the get-go. The bass has a phenolic fingerboard with a 14-inch radius, so it's more of a modern, flatter design than, let's say, a traditional Fender Jazz. But then the neck itself is fairly chunky and more in line with, let's say, a P-bass than maybe an Ibanez. The truss rod adjustment is at the heel of the neck, which I always find a little annoying on my old Fenders. I do tend to prefer adjustments at the headstock, you know, with like a little bullet truss rod adjustments. But luckily, there's a cutout section there in the scratch plate, so you can get to it with an Allen wrench without the need for unscrewing everything from the body, which is what you have to do on the old Fenders. Now, there are two things on this bass that obviously stand out from pretty much anything that you'll see out there. One is the pickups, which I'll be covering in a minute, and the other is this stunning paint job. Now, I can't remember the exact details behind this finish, but Martin recommended it for me, probably because he wanted to try it out on an unsuspecting guinea pig. But as you can see, it's truly stunning, and I'm so happy that he did it. Martin specialises in custom spray jobs and has a client list taken right out of the Rock Hall of Fame. Dave Gilmour, Bono, Pino, Palladino, Bryan Adams, and a whole host of others have called upon Martin for his super spray skills. And as you can see, the man knows how to make a bass look sweet. I'm informed that this is a combination of some kind of blue and bronze, and the cool thing is that it changes depending on the angle. So 1 minute you have this kind of brown effect, and then it kind of moves through a sort of purple and finally into a deep blue. So, really wicked paint job. So now let's move on to these pickups. These are Sims' own quad coil design. So there are 4 hand-wound coils that allow you to switch between 3 different configurations. You can have single coil, like a Fender Jazz, split coil, like a Precision, and dual coil, like the Music Man Stingray humbucker. The LED on each of these pickups informs you of the current state. So green is single coil, then red is split coil, and then blue is dual coil. And by moving through the various states for each pickup, it allows a total combination of 15 different combinations. Then, when you factor in the pickup blend, the tonal possibilities are almost endless. So if I select both green, that gives me a Fender Jazz setup. So that's typical Fender Jazz. Then soloing the red pickup in the middle, that gives you a Precision. Then if I go for the back pickup and I switch it to blue, you're going to get more of that kind of Music Man sound. So let's have a closer listen to some of these tones. First of all, let's try the single coils together. So this is pretty much a standard Fender Jazz configuration with both pickups up full. And you see there, I've got them both set to green. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. if I stay in this Fender Jazz configuration with both pickups set to green and then I solo the bridge, we get more of that kind of nasally Jacko jazz bass twang, which sounds more like this. Next, let's try it in a kind of precision mode with the neck pickup soloed, and you can see there it's set to red, which is split coil. So when you set to this, you can get that kind of old school kind of precision vibe with bass lines like this. So you can hear there it's got that kind of hollow, really deep tone. And then if you want more of a kind of rocky, kind of clanky sound, you've also got that. Next, let's try the blue setting of dual coil mode in the bridge position, which is a little more like a Stingray. So if I had a little bit of mid in there as well, it really brings that out. So you can hear here how it has a much more modern kind of sound. You know, if I play a little bit closer to this, a little bit closer to the neck, you can hear that little bite up on the top. And then for slapping, you've got more of that, like I say, more of a Stingray kind of sound. Now, as you can imagine, if you combine all of the 15 different combinations you can have with those pickups and the active EQ and the pickup blend, you get a ton of variety. Now, the pickups and preamp are powered by a single 9-volt battery in the cavity round the back, and as with everything, Martin has thought of everything. So you get a magnetic cavity cover with a little opening for your finger, so there's no unscrewing everything when you need to make a quick battery change between sets. The bridge and the tuning pegs are all Hipshot, and as with all Hipshot products, it's all of the very highest quality. The tuning pegs are super smooth and allow for incredibly accurate tuning, and the bridge is a fast release A style. So again, it's really great for super quick changes between sets with none of that running the string, you know, through the bridge holes after detuning. Lastly, let's have a look at the onboard preamp itself. Now, this is a Glockenklang 3-band, but you can request other preamps as a custom option. I've been a big fan of Glockenklang for many years since using their Bass Art preamp in my old rack mount setup. The Glock is ultra transparent, and as with everything else about this bass, it's all very hi-fi in its approach. I know some players love a little more character in the preamp, like you might find in an Aguilar circuit, but this works great for me. There's an active-passive pull switch on the volume pot, so you don't have to worry about everything going down the toilet when the battery runs out. And the thing I really like about it is the matching of signal between the active and passive signal. So the active is the same output as the passive, so when you switch, it's exactly the same level, and you won't have the sound guy, you know, frowning when you switch. So if I set everything to flat here, so I'll just set all that to flat, and then if I'm playing, if I then switch to passive, you can hear there's no real change in the sound, very transparent, and zero change in the output signal. Now, obviously, some players might not like that, especially if you're looking to get a huge amount of output from the bass, you know, getting active pickups and thinking, yeah, I want to slam it. But for me, it works great because I really don't want any change between that signal. So let's have a listen to some of those tone controls in action. So here we are in typical single coil Fender Jazz mode, and everything's flat at the moment. So if I play a typical kind of slap line, it might sound like this. Okay, so now if I boost the treble a little bit and the bass a little bit, you're going to get more of this sound. Okay, so you've got a lot more bite on up on the top. Next, let's try out that mid control. So again, I'm in Fender Jazz mode. I've got the 2 single coil pickups, so they're both set to green, but I've soloed the bridge pickup, and I'm going to play a few harmonics. So first of all, just with everything flat, it'll sound like this. Okay, now let's boost those mids. You can hear it really cuts through a lot better. So that's the Enfield Lionheart. It's an amazing bass that can cover a lot of styles with the variety of tones on tap. They're great to play and stunning to look at, so if you want to check out some more info on the Enfield bass and Sims products, I've included a link in the info below. Okay, I'll see you next week.